So we have this Pidove card from Temporal Forces in Standard right now. If its unimpressive 50 HP repulses you, then you should probably read its ability Emergency Evolution. It can only be used if Pidove has 30 HP or less remaining, but it allows you to evolve Pidove directly from your deck by searching for an Unfezant, or, get this, an Unfezant-ex. If there was one. Ever since Temporal Forces, I've heard many people wish for an Unfezant-ex. With Delta Rain being announced though, we know we'll be getting another bird instead, so people are kind of sad about that. Looking at older cards, it's pretty clear that this line of text was exclusively put there as a future-proofing and not necessarily as a promise. If we look at all of the antique fossils that exist, Antique Old Amber from 151 is the only one to state that it can evolve into an EX. This is because Aerodactyl is the only fully evolved Pokemon to evolve from an antique fossil as of now. This makes it the only one eligible to receive an EX printing. Antique Old Amber is no longer with us today though, but Pidove is an H-block card with a year left to go. Bro is literally on his last little bird leg, so let's explore what an Unfezant-ex card could look like. And before we do that, you guys go explore, specifically to below the video where you can hit the like and subscribe button. That would be greatly appreciated. Pidove would be happy. Thanks, bye. I started by attempting to understand how Pokemon cards are designed generally. Most Pokemon cards have up to 2 in any combination of attacks and abilities, but always have at least 1 attack. Deviations exist even in modern times, but exceptions are usually only made for certain Pokemon, Ditto being one of the big ones. And then there's whatever the hell this thing is. Pokemon cards also have an HP stat, a retreat cost, and a type that determines their weakness and resistance. And that's the simple part. The Pokemon trading card game is designed by Creatures Inc., and a 2023 IGN article has taught me 2 things about them. First, Creatures designs the game, and therefore the cards, around the fantasy of being a Pokemon trainer. Creatures tries to capture the feeling of having your Pokemon pals fighting alongside you in a big stadium. A Pokemon's key characteristics therefore directly influence what kind of moves they get and what the cards look like. So that's why half of Electrode cards blow themselves up. And sometimes, if it's a little bit less obvious, they even show this in the artwork of the card. Like, they're actually doing the thing that they say that they do on the card and the artwork, so I think it's very cool when they incorporate that. The second thing I learned was that they purposefully introduce cards stronger than the rest in an attempt to control the gameplay environment and therefore the meta. The next time you think Dragapult was a mistake, just know that John Pokemon had it all planned out from the start. A particular thing they've been doing recently has caught my eye, and that's attempting to buff existing archetypes by introducing new cards for them. Think of cards like Zekrom, Hops, Trevenant, the 7 Guardy buffs, because for some reason they thought that was a good idea. And they used Seeking twice for this, and hey, I'm a niche archetype enjoyer, and this has actually really made me like Seeking, a Pokemon that doesn't really tend to turn many heads. And honestly, that's exactly the kind of Pokemon Pidove and Unfezant are. They could use this kind of treatment, and now's pretty much their golden opportunity. So that's when I decided I wanted this card to be good. So to start, I made a deck focused entirely on consistently getting the Unpleasant Pheasant into play, whose empty move slots will act like the wild card of the deck. We'll use them to patch up the deck's weaknesses, all while adhering to the design philosophy. We have to make it feel like Unfezant is actually flying through the stadium. The deck will of course be using 4 Pidove and Unfezant-ex to evolve into using Emergency Evolution. Since Pidove needs to be damaged in order to make that happen, we have to include cards that can do just that. We'll focus on cards that can damage Pidove during our turn because don't trust those guys. And usually you'd look no further than Risky Ruins. It's a stadium card that puts 2 damage counters on any Pokemon, except Darkness Pokemon, that either player puts onto their bench during their turn. But we also have Team Rocket's Venture Bomb. Upon use, you flip a coin, and that's the part where you stop reading. Given the reason we're considering this card for this deck specifically, it does nothing for us if we flip heads. Flipping tails helps, sure, but it's still less efficient than Risky Ruins, as that card can damage many more Pokemon at once. So we aren't gonna bother. With that, I added 4 Risky Ruins to the deck to maximize our odds of starting it, which 3 Cores of Tenacity should help with. He's perfect for going second, so from now on we'll be optimizing the deck for that. Another great card for this is Fan Rotom, for which we'll play 2. It has a great early game attack, as well as the Fangirl ability, which will put 3 Pidove into our hand on turn 1. To emphasize, on turn 1, we're also going to be including 4 Buddy Buddy Poffin, 4 Ultra Ball, and Pokepad, because seriously, we really don't want to whiff Fan Rotom. Adding more basics to the deck also decreases our chance of opening with Pidove, which is one of the things we want to avoid, so I wanted to put a 3rd and maybe even a 4th Fan Rotom into the deck to prevent that. Then I got a call from Slop Inc., and I added Fez, Kang, and Meowth to the list. They will help us with consistency and to not start Pidove. Like the sound of my fingers cracking, crack-a-lacking. Should I just make an ASMR channel at this point? Last 3 basics in the deck are all Monkey Dory from Twilight Masquerade. Risky Ruins puts damage into play, so we might as well have a way to weaponize that in the deck. 5 complementary Darkness Energy should do. And on top of that, we'll run 4 Mist Energy to protect us from effects of attacks, mainly Alakazam's powerful hand. They can hammer at our Mist Energy though to win the prize trade, so this is the best possible time to mention that these guys exist. Both are colorless Pokemon with 150 HP, a weakness to lightning, a resistance to fighting, and a retreat cost of 0. They should give us more air to fly on in 1 prize matchups. Opposing Winds deals 70 damage and allows you to put 2 energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon back into their hand, and Energy Disruption is all the rage right now, so this card actually has a use case. Boundless Power does 180 damage, and if you ever feel useless, remember that this line of text exists. Just like its brother from Temporal Forces, Blackington Bolt boasts 2 attacks. Boasts 2. Boasts 2? English. Add on draws you 4 cards for a single energy, and if Cleffa can be good on turn 1, then so can this. Swift Flight does 120 damage and can grant you immunity to all damage from and effective attacks during your opponent's next turn, if you flip heads. We'll include 2 Unfezant from Black Bolt and 1 from Temporal Forces into our deck. So find Risky Ruins, mobilize the bird army, power them up with energy, and flock them up. The core strategy of the deck is pretty clear at this point, so I thought this was the best time to decide what I wanted Unfezant-ex to do. But first, we have to decide the card's stats, starting with the hardest one to pin down, the HP. A Pokemon's in-universe height and weight determine the HP their cards get. This aligns with the design philosophy in its physicality, because like every card is the same size. High HP is like the thing a card can have to indicate a Pokemon's presence. I was looking into their in-game stats as an explanation as well, but then I remembered Shuckle existed and that theory kind of fell flat. Also, I'm in the minority of people who know some Pokemon by their stats, so I probably need to go outside. And when deciding how much HP to give this card specifically, there were a few things I needed to look at. First off, it'll be a Stage 2 non-Mega Pokemon EX, and those usually sit in the range of 300 to 340 HP. But there are now 2 outliers on the lower end. Fellow early birds, Pidgeot from Obsidian Flames and Talonflame EX from the upcoming Japanese set Storm Emeralda. Both have the ability to search cards from your deck, which comes with the side effect of being relegated to a support role. And if you look at Pawmot EX from the same set as Pidgeot EX, you can clearly see that having that support role results in lower stats. Pawmot is notably smaller than Pidgeot and weighs just about the same. I can also imagine Pawmot being a lot less intimidating than Pidgeot or Talonflame, but to like everything that has eyes. Yet its EX card has 20 HP more than Pidgeot. All because it's meant to be a main attacker. Pull up the Limitless page, emphasis on meant to be. I just think they had some sort of hard rule at the time that gives those Pokemon a minimum of 300 health. Also, Talonflame EX's ability lets it cheat itself into play, which is likely another reason they went with subpar stats. Unfezant is less impressive than stature than Pidgeot though, which means that we're gonna have to give this card 300 HP by pretty much default. Any bird is pretty much synonymous with lightning weakness and fighting resistance. No rocket science involved there. And lastly, we have the retreat cost, for which there are 2 determining factors, Pokédex entries and weight. Specifically, size, but weight is more important. Since the official Unfezant cards in this very deck already have 0 retreat cost, we can just skip the step and give it 0. So now that we've got the stats down, it's on to what makes or breaks the card. The moveset. The most noticeable flaw of this deck is that it's very energy hungry. I fiddled around with Ignition Energy to power up our birds, but those discard themselves at the end of our turn, which would mean we'd run out of steam a little bit sooner than we would want. We also can't use Crispin with our current energy spread, so I decided to give our big bird an ability that can accelerate energy. We'll call it Tailwind. It's a move Unfezant can learn in the games that doubles the speed of your Pokemon for 4 turns, and if you roughly translate speed increase to TCG terms, you get energy acceleration. On top of that, 2 cards in the TCG already have a Tailwind attack, and hey, guess what? One of them is an Unfezant. 2 birds in 1 stone, really. So Tailwind's effect will be whenever one of your Pokemon moves from the bench to the active spot during your turn, you may attach an energy card from your hand to it. The effect of Tailwind does not stack, and I added that last sentence a little bit too late into making the video. Good thing I did though, lest LDF lay waste to the format. I also added Force Switch to the deck to facilitate use of our Feathered Friend's new ability. Now on to the bigger challenge, the attack. The second problem this deck had was bench space. We have a lot of Pokemon in our deck that we want to have in play, meaning that the bench will inevitably get a little bit crowded. So I had to design this attack to be able to free up bench space. We have Area 0 Underdepths in the format right now, which can do exactly that because of this last sentence on the card. Yes, we're gonna have to read the whole card. Don't click away. I can hold your hand if you want. It's not gonna be that scary, I promise. That sentence right there. When this card leaves play, each player discards Pokemon from their bench until they have 5 left. And Terra decks play a lot of support Pokemon that kind of just sit there after having done their job. So therefore, they, more often than not, benefit from having their stadium discarded, as they can then get rid of said Pokemon. Since we can't play Area 0 under depths, I decided to have Unfezant-ex's attack simulate this effect. So for 2 colorless energy, here's Swirling Storm. It does 140 damage and discards specifically your stadium play. If you do though, after your opponent's next turn, you can have up to 7 Pokemon on your bench. At the end of your next turn, you shuffle Pokemon from your bench into your deck until you have 5 remaining. This allows us to get rid of liabilities, just like removing an Area 0 would. Think of cards like Meowth, Fez, Fan Rotom, and damaged Pokemon, specifically the Unfezant-ex that'll use the attack. Retreat to the bench, promote a fresh Unfezant-ex, shuffling the old one back into the deck. Bench another Pidove to evolve instantly, all the while putting more damage into play for Monkey Dory. And you can repeat that once for every risky ruins you still have left. On play abilities like Meowth-ex's Last Ditch Catch can be reused in this way as well, giving us access to a consistent supporter search engine throughout the game as long as you have Ultra Balls available. And yeah, the strategy behind this card is to form a tank and heal loop. Strategies like these always have the potential to impact the meta when present, and that's exactly what we're going for, so that's good. There is one more stadium we're going to add to the deck, by the way, that solves another problem that I ran into. If you ever end up with an Unfezant or an Unfezant-ex in your hand, they'll be dead cards and targetable by Pidove because they aren't in the deck. So welcome Academy at Night, which can be easily found with Core to solve this problem. It can be discarded with Swirling Storm as well to enable its secondary effect, and we can use it to special red card proof ourselves if we choose not to shuffle any Pokemon back into the deck at the end of our turn. Iona Proof just sounded so much better than special red card proof. Not that I'd go back. Welcome to hell. Another card that can shuffle things back is Lilies. Well, sometimes, if you're lucky. It's also a nice consistency card, so we'll just add 3 to the deck. Here's a last overview of our custom Unfezant-ex card. Feel free to screenshot. As for the final 5 deck slots, you could pretty much do whatever you want, but if you have any excuse to add 4 Boss's Orders to any standard deck right now, then that's one excuse too many, man. Now let's look at some matchups. On the surface, this deck beats anything that can't hit for 300 damage in one turn, and this deck loses to anything that can hit for 300 or more damage in one turn, which makes our matchup spread look something like this. One thing's clear with this deck though, we aren't tanky enough at 300 health, but a keen eye may have noticed something. We still have a single deck slot left, and we still need to add an A-spec, so put the pieces together, like that, and all signs point to Hero's Cape. It's going to give her Unfezant 400 HP as long as it's attached, which means it will now survive any attack in standard. But would it be balanced? And honestly, I think so. I know tank and heal isn't everyone's favorite strategy to play against, but at the moment we have many cards that can already enable similar strategies, and of course plenty of other strategies that can gatekeep it. We still lose to Raging Bolt, Honchkrow, and Hydropple even with a Hero's Cape on, and you'll also have to find the cape every time you shuffle it back into your deck, which might not always work out. A card any deck could slot in to counter my Unfezant-ex is the already widely played Team Rocket's Watchtower. It stops Unfezant-ex's tailwind from accelerating energy, but more importantly, it shuts off Pidove's ability, which guts the deck completely. Pair that with a Hand Disrupt, and your opponent shuffles their deck and all attached cards back into the box. So with a matchup spread like this one, I'd say this deck could do pretty well, and that's what an Unfezant-ex card and deck could look like. Creatures will obviously never watch this video or make Unfezant-ex, and if they do, there's a solid chance that it ends up like this. Yeah, that'll make a lot of people angry, including me. Put him on the bench next to Tauros, 300 snipe. No backtrack badge needed, guaranteed. That's it for this one. Smash like, watch my other decent videos, subscribe or something. Did I say that already? I don't even know. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. I still gotta think of an outro.